right, boxing fans, shouldn't have a huge show for you this week. Welcome back to the Lights Out podcast. Unfortunately, Ant is still out, and we look forward to seeing his return sooner rather than later. Most likely on the next episode, okay? This will be one of our last episodes for the next couple of weeks, simply because we've had the big shows of April come and go. All right, let me go ahead and lay out the roadmap for you. We will have another show at the end of April, which goes ahead and reviews the Ring Magazine's April matchups of the month. We'll go ahead and look at every match once it's happened. We will preview the shows that are coming up in May. And then until then, yeah, you're not going to hear a lot from us. But nonetheless, man, we do have two pretty big shows to get into to close out the big portion of April's content. We're going to go ahead and start with UFC 327, which took place this past Saturday night. So, with the first three fights of UFC 327, we were able to see one knockout, and that was the first one, as Cub Swanson defeated Nate Landwehr by knockout in a featherweight bout to open up the main card. And then we move on to the second fight, which saw the number 10 light heavyweight in the world, Dominic Reyes, defeat the number 12 light heavyweight in the world, Johnny Walker, by decision. Josh Hokit gets the decision over the number 5 heavyweight in the world, Curtis Blades, in a huge fight. And then in the co-main, we're able to see Paulo Costa, who just moved up to light heavyweight, get a knockout victory against the number 6 light heavyweight in the world, Azamat Morzankanov. Hopefully I said that right. And in the main event, we were able to crown a UFC light heavyweight champion. This title has been vacant since Alex Pereira moved up to heavyweight. And Carlos Oldberg is able to get the knockout victory over Jiri Prochaska. And Carlos Oldberg is now your UFC light heavyweight champion. So pretty fun show, right? 5 fight main card. 2 of those fights are knockouts. And outside of those knockouts, we also see the homecoming of Josh Hokit getting a huge win against Curtis Blades. Paulo Costa making his name known in the light heavyweight division. Really fun main card here for UFC 327. UFC has been on a roll with their numbered events. Their numbered events have been great in 2026. There hasn't been one that I've been disappointed with. All right. Maybe the BMF title fight. That was the only one. Okay. The BMF title fight, Oliveira cuddling for 25 minutes to win the BMF title, just didn't feel right at all. Everything else has been fantastic. Everything else has been solid. Now we get into Netflix's big show, first big show of 2026, Fury versus Makhmudov. And we were able to see 4 big fights here on Fury versus Makhmudov, streaming off of Netflix, live out of the UK, hours before the main card of UFC 327. So it was a good day of combat sports this past Saturday. Okay, we'll start from the bottom to the top here for Fury versus Makhmudov, as we saw Justice Hooney defeat Fraser Clark by decision. And then we saw Richard Riakporhe defeat Jamie Chikeva by knockout for the British heavyweight title in what was a fun fight. The co-main event saw Conor Benn defeat Regis Prograis by decision. Regis Prograis retires after the loss to Conor Benn. Conor Benn looks good at 150. Looks like we got a bright future for Conor Benn as he wants Ryan Garcia in that WBC welterweight title next. This does bring Conor Benn's contract with Zuffa Boxing to an end. He didn't actually fight on a Zuffa main card. He fought here on the Ring Magazine's Netflix supercard, but ultimately Conor Benn has expressed a favor in Zuffa Boxing, right? He favors Zuffa Boxing, and he says they are in the driver's seat to go ahead and sign him for a multi-fight deal now that his 1-fight contract with them is done. And maybe we will eventually see him on an actual Zuffa card. Doesn't look like his next fight will be on a Zuffa card. It looks like his next fight will be against Ryan Garcia for the WBC welterweight title. Okay? So really interesting. That's an interesting development in itself. Like, why is Zuffa paying Conor Benn? I don't know. I'm sure they will have him in the main event on Netflix in the second half of 2026 against Ryan Garcia, if Ryan Garcia is down to fight. We'll see what happens. Nonetheless, the main event of this Ring Magazine Netflix event saw Tyson Fury defeat Arslanbek Makhmudov by decision in his return fight to boxing. And ultimately, what came after was the big takeaway, as Tyson Fury, during the broadcast, formally called out Anthony Joshua, who was sitting ringside. It looks like we're getting Tyson Fury versus AJ next, which was the big fight that everybody has been anticipating for a long time. This is going to probably sell out the O2 Arena, and this will be very fun. This will be very exciting. Very excited to see Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua and see what comes of it. See who gets the victory, see where this leads both fighters. I'm sure it's going to happen at this point. They wouldn't allow all this stuff to happen on broadcast if this fight wasn't going to happen. All right? But Anthony Joshua sure looked pissed off to be called out like that. Who wouldn't be, right? Who wouldn't be? Anywho, Fury versus Makhmudov, in my mind, was a success. It was a 4-fight main card. It was definitely just as much for Conor Benn as it was for Tyson Fury in the mind of some. And I think it's going to lead us to 2 big shows that will both probably take place on Netflix this year. 1, Fury versus Anthony Joshua, and 2, Conor Benn versus Ryan Garcia for the WBC welterweight title. 2 fun fights that I can't wait to see on Netflix that will be very accessible to the public, which is great for boxing and great for the growth of boxing. I love the future of these Netflix events. I love the future of these Netflix events is what I meant to say, right? Because the DAZN Ultimate is great, right? It's great that we have one place for damn near all of the major boxing promotions, minus the PBC, of course. Zuffa Boxing is fantastic. I told you my take on that several times. I enjoy their presentation. I enjoy the speed at which they get fights out. It doesn't feel like we're waiting around too much. And I enjoy the matchmaking. At the end of the day, the content that is boxing itself on that show is really good. So women's boxing, right, with ESPN, most valuable promotions, that's fantastic. But really, these Netflix events are the ones that need to hit, because that is how you're going to get boxing back into the mainstream, right? You're going to do it with accessibility. You're going to do it with Netflix. You're going to do it by having big fights on Netflix. And I think that's going to get the people talking. Anywho, we got 2 more things to do, right? We got to preview the rest of the April matchups of the month. And then we have to talk about the announcements. We only have one big announcement to talk about here, and that is 3 major signings to Zuffa Boxing. All right. Dana White has made it clear that he intends to sign, quote unquote, everybody. Whether he is successful in doing that or not is not my burden to bear. But there are 3 solid names that have been added to the Zuffa Boxing roster since the last time we spoke. One of them is the current IBF junior welterweight champion, Richardson Hitchens. We'll see what happens. The IBF will probably strip him too. And then we have Edgar Berlanga, who's excellent, and Chris Billam-Smith, who is probably on a collision course with Jai Opataya. Chris Billam-Smith is a top 5 Ring Magazine ranked cruiserweight. Jai Opataya is the Ring Magazine Cruiserweight Champion and also holds the Zuffa Cruiserweight Championship. I'm sure Chris Billam-Smith and Jai Opataya will put on a great fight in the second half of 2026. That, in my mind, that is all but confirmed, really. What else are you signing him for? Berlanga hasn't decided whether he's going to go up to light heavyweight or go down to middleweight. He's currently a super middleweight. And then Richardson Hitchens, the current IBF junior welterweight champion, also has a decision to make. Does he go up to welterweight or does he go back down to lightweight? Because Zuffa doesn't do these junior divisions, right? Which I'm not going to say is good or bad. I think there's a lot of value in a division like super middleweight, but a division like junior bantamweight or whatever, no, that's like literally a 2-pound difference. Like there's no need to have junior lightweight or super featherweight, whatever. Some of those divisions at the lower rates are really just not a big difference. But super middleweight, yeah, huge difference between light heavyweight and middleweight. So ultimately, I like what they're trying to do. I think it's like I think it's honest and genuine in theory, but I do think like a division like super middleweight will be missed at Zuffa Boxing. Will be missed for sure. But yeah, these are three huge names that Zuffa Boxing is lucky to have. Again, Richardson Hitchens, Edgar Berlanga, and Chris Billam Smith. Those are three fantastic, notable names in the world of boxing that will be on Zuffa. All right. One more thing to do. Look at the rest of the Ring Magazine's April matchups of the month here, and then we can get out of here. Short episode today. Okay. Since we last spoke, there's only been one matchup that took place on the April matchups of the month, and that was on the 11th, this past Saturday, as Tenshin Nasakawa defeated Juan Francisco Estrada by TKO in a WBC bantamweight title eliminator match. Okay. But we do have other fights in the pipeline. Okay. We have Most Valuable Promotions putting on their second event, right? They have done MVP 1 earlier this month, and now they do MVP 2, which we'll see in the co-main. Shadeja Green will take on Lainey Daniels, defending the Ring, WBO, and IBF Super Middleweight Championship. And in the main event of MVP 2, we will see Alicia Baumgardner versus Bore Mishin for the Ring, WBA, WBO, and IBF Junior Lightweight Championship. Should be fun. I look forward to seeing what Most Valuable Promotions does with women's boxing, because they are taking it places, again, that men's boxing could never go. They are. They're taking it there. Unfortunately, so MVP 2 takes place on the ESPN Unlimited deal on the 17th of April. And the very next night, we were supposed to get the number 3 light heavyweight Callum Smith taking on the number 6 light heavyweight David Morrell in a WBO interim light heavyweight title fight. Unfortunately, due to injury, this fight has been canceled. This was definitely the fight that people were excited for on the April matchups of the month. And yeah, it's just not going to happen this month. I'm sure it will happen, though. And I look forward to seeing that fight, that match, when it happens. But the last April matchup of the month before we get out of here happens on the 25th of April as Tony Yoka takes on the number 10 heavyweight in the world, Lawrence Okoli, for the WBC silver heavyweight title. Should be a good fight. Should be a good heavyweight clash, right? But ultimately, the best of April is seemingly behind us, right? We got MVP 1, the inaugural women's boxing event of MVP. We had Zuffa Boxing. That was solid. I look forward to Zuffa Boxing 6 more than I looked forward to Zuffa Boxing 5, if I'm being honest. Right? We had UFC 327. We had Fury versus Makhmadov, which I think was a huge success. And then we also had Derek Chisora versus Deontay Wilder, which was an interesting fight, but a lot of fun nonetheless. All right. So April, for the most part, we got a couple more fights, but April, for the most part, is in the books, and May is going to be crazy. On the next episode of the Lights Out podcast with Ant, hopefully back, we will preview the month of May in the world of boxing. I look forward to doing that. I look forward to talking to you soon. Enjoy the rest of April. Be good, be happy, and take care, fellas. Peace out.